Alrighty, we are going to go ahead and kick things off. Hello, everyone. My name is William Hurley, and I'm the Professional Development Coordinator here with NACIS. I want to give a big thanks to everyone for joining us on today's webinar, Building an Effective Mystery Shopping Program. I would like to inform all attendees that this program is being recorded today for our friends who couldn't be here. And we have a really great conversation lined up, and I'm super excited to get started. But just in case we do have anyone in the audience who hasn't joined us for a webinar before, I do want to cover a couple things real quick so we're all on the same page. You may have noticed upon logging in, your line was muted. We do that for a reason, so that way all of our background noise in our home offices don't pick up over the line. But there are still a couple of ways that you can interact with our presenters today. The best way, as always, is the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. If you ask a question that's really short and simple for me to answer, I will probably answer it just over text back through the Q&A box. If it's anything more complex or anything that we need to expand upon, we will save it until the Q&A portion of the presentation. But we do encourage you to ask those questions as they come to mind, so that way you don't forget. And if it's covered automatically through the presentation, no harm, no foul. We also have a chat box that you can use if there's any interesting links or something that you'd like to post as it relates to the discussion. So feel free to make use of that as well. And finally, if you're having audio issues and feel like you're having a tough time hearing us, I recommend that you click that little arrow in the bottom of your screen next to the mute button. And then you can click test speaker and microphone, and Zoom will automatically walk you through how to troubleshoot your connection so you can have the best experience possible. And with all that out of the way, I am now going to turn things over to Erica, who's going to kick us off.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to this webinar today. We're excited to speak with you. Today with us, we have, I'm Erica Neerling. I'm with Touchwork. We have Cindy McClanahan with Georgia College, and we have Johan Leitner, the CEO, my boss at Touchwork. Cindy is the Director of Marketing Communications and Auxiliary Services at Georgia College, and I'm in sales. And previously, before Touchwork, I was the Assistant Director Dietitian at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. The reason I share that is because we used this product that we're going to talk about today, the mystery shopping. We used that at University of Illinois, so I had a lot of experience with mystery shopping. And actually prior to that, when I worked in a hospital, we did a lot of customer feedback modes as well. So Touchwork, the reason we are positioned to speak to this is we've done around 13 years of work in customer feedback, in customer communications and data collection. So we work with about 100 different schools, and we have mystery shopping programs at many schools. So the importance of feedback, we already know that it's always important to get your student and your customer feedback, but it's especially important now as we enter into fall 2020. I know that so many schools have altered schedules, trying to fit a semester into a shorter amount of time potentially, with some schools ending before Thanksgiving. There's online and weekend classes. I know altered living, possibly singles and residence halls or hotels set up to accommodate additional students, and rooms set up for quarantine as well. And there's also altered behavior, masks, wearing masks, social distancing across campus, social distancing in classrooms. That's all going to be new for everyone. So when we have new processes and procedures and all these different veins of operations, we of course need to monitor that student, staff, and the perceptions and experience of those students and staff. And the importance of this, it's critical for auxiliary services to have processes to gather this feedback, give students a voice. And right now, students may not feel that they have as much of a voice because they won't have as much face-to-face contact. So they'll have to share their voice in another way. You want to still build that trust and loyalty, and a lot of trust and loyalty comes from that face-to-face contact. Even if it's not a conversation, just seeing people gives that trust and loyalty. And so not being able to see and connect with staff as much, we need other ways to build that trust. You want to enhance your customer satisfaction and retention. And you can do that by giving students that voice and building the trust. The other benefit is you want to identify these issues that may pop up when you have new processes. There's going to be kinks to work out, and you want to identify that as quickly as possible. And so you can support your staff with additional training so that they are more comfortable and rolling smoothly with the new processes and procedures. So the feedback source, you actually, what we're going to talk about today is something that you would use more weekly. So secret shopping would be ideally a weekly type of feedback method. But additionally, to have a well-rounded view of your feedback, you would want some type of daily feedback as well. So from the customer experience that may come through if you have a texting platform or some of your social media channels. You also want to have a semester or annual check that gives you an overview of where you're at. And likely you might compare that to NACIS or a QOI or NACUF's benchmarking surveys. So additionally, so that's incoming information. You may also need that quick way to give outgoing information to stay connected with students and help keep that the customers feeling loyal and having that trust in you. So that could either be through social media, or you can have text marketing as well for that. So mystery shopping, we're going to focus on that today. And the biggest benefit that you're going to get from mystery shopping is when you're coaching your staff along with it. So when mystery shopping programs, this was a study done across 3 restaurants, and what they noticed was that when they started the mystery shopping, there was an improvement. And when they started coaching their staff after the mystery shopping, then they saw another improvement. So not just informing staff of what the issues are, but coaching them through that. And then when they reduced the coaching, they saw a huge decrease again in the customer satisfaction. So what that shows is if you're doing mystery shopping just by itself and you're not encouraging and talking with your staff through that feedback, then you won't get as big of a benefit from it. So the mystery shopping process, of course, you want to identify your locations first. You can mystery shop wherever you have customers. You can do mystery shopping. You want to figure out what you need to monitor, and we're going to go into each of these steps in more detail. Recruit your shoppers, schedule your shops, and then you want shoppers to be collecting that data on the spot when they're shopping, not later. And then you can have your data analytics and review those and train your staff to get better outcomes. Additionally, you may look at your customer life cycle. There's various different life cycles out there, or different models for it. And you might want to map your customer's journey. So maybe a customer becomes aware of your services. They're trying to solve a problem. They're looking for a solution. They become aware of what is available. They become engaged with that. And the optional piece I'll bring up later. That's on a different perspective. And then they evaluate if your services are if that fits their needs, and then they make the jump to purchase those services. and then you have a bonding experience as if they continue to keep coming back and repeating their experience. So of course, you know, students have already purchased a semester when they come on campus. But what we're looking at with that bonding experience is we want to retain these students. So we want them to be happy with their semester and come back again. So we want them to feel safe and connected and educated, really. So what do you monitor? Of course, you want to keep it relevant for your shopper. Some customers, you know, I see on a lot of different surveys, is my employee wearing a name badge? A lot of customers don't care about that. Some do. And so that might be something that you do ask, or maybe that's something that you've been really encouraging with your staff lately. But you want to make sure you're really focusing. You only have the client's attention for a short amount of time. So you want to make sure you're focusing on what matters the most to them. So you look at your key performance indicators, and then, like I said, focus on those customer desires. This was a study in which the researchers looked at, actually they conducted this in the US and in Poland, and compared answers in some different hospitality type venues, and most of them restaurants. And what they did is they used, they looked at the performance, and they also looked at the importance of that aspect to the customer. So if you want to balance those together to figure out what is the most important thing to look at. So there's going to be a lot of different studies out there that you can look in for each of your individual areas to look at that performance and importance analysis on what might be the best to monitor. So when I was at University of Illinois, we did mystery shopping in our retail and our all you care to eat locations. Of course, you want objective versus subjective questions, but you also want to have some additional areas where students and customers can put in their comments. Especially now, I think there's going to be some really important, like detailed information that our customers can give us about their experience with this completely unprecedented time. And also you want to have 30 or less questions. I've seen surveys that have 40 and 50 questions. And while you might have a customer complete that because you've incentivized the survey, they will be less likely to give you as detailed answers on those open text box comment areas. So I would stick to less than 30 questions. You can change the questions each semester if you would like, but you just want to make sure you're comparing your data to the appropriate, it makes your analytics a little bit different if you do change your questions. And of course you want to collect that digitally. So the shoppers might be on, I would say a cell phone is the best method for them to collect. So you would want an online survey that they're able to pull up on their phones. Most students don't walk around carrying iPads or clipboards. So it would be really easy for your staff to spot the mystery shopper if they're walking around with something like that. So at this point, I would like to pull in Cindy and see if she had specific additions to this on how she designed her questions.
Thanks, Erica. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. So one of the things that we did when it came to questions, we definitely followed the rule about 30 or less. Our questions have about 12 to 14, or our surveys have about 12 to 14 questions. Each unit in our auxiliary services operation has its own specific survey, because the things we're looking for out of a retail dining versus the bookstore might be different. So we work with each unit manager to make sure that the questions we're asking are the things that they're working with their staff on. If in our technology store, if it's important that they be greeted within 30 seconds of entering the store, that's a question. In our bookstore, it might be that they're responding to an entry 45 or a minute within someone entering the establishment. So each unit has their own surveys. The important thing is for me is to make sure that I have buy-in from the unit manager on what those survey questions are. When we first introduced this idea of mystery shopping, people got a little bit nervous. They felt like we were checking in on them and, well, what happens if something goes wrong? But when I explained that this was a tool that they could use to help make sure that the initiatives that they're working on a daily basis with their staff are being met, and areas that we need to work on before they become problems, and they were allowed to work with me on those questions, we got a lot more buy-in.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of recruiting shoppers, you want to recruit a diverse group of students. You want it to be representative of your customer base, and then you want to consider incentivizing it. Certainly for secret shopping, I think it's really good to incentivize with something. At University of Illinois, we incentivize by paying for the student's meal to come in and have a meal with us and share their experience. And so the students I recruited, I pulled in dietetics and hospitality students. They all had to get, it met both their volunteer, or not the volunteer, but they have to get a certain number of hours and different experiences to get their degree. So it helped them meet their experience hours. And then I pulled in current student staff as well. And at that time at Illinois, we had pulled student meals due to an audit that we had in Illinois that then changed all of the Illinois schools to where we couldn't provide those free lunches without, I won't get into that. Anyways, we pulled the student meals, and so letting students do mystery shopping, that gave them the opportunity to then have a free meal. Now, the positive side of the dietetics and hospitality students were that for food service and hospitality for many areas in auxiliary, but at Illinois, we focused on just food service. They were uniquely in tune to the needs of those areas, and they spotted more things that might need to be corrected. Similarly, the dining student workers, when we had them shop locations that they didn't currently work at, they also had more food service knowledge. Now, the downside of this that I discovered later that came to my attention later, is that with dietetic students, it's largely white, female. It's with all three of the dietetics, hospitality, and student staff, you have a customer base that's very focused on specific areas, and it may not be the mindset of your regular customer. So I really like Cindy's method on recruiting students. If I went back in time, I would do her method.
Well, so my method is I utilize social media to get as diverse a group as possible. I have a team of about 12 secret shoppers. We do a training when we come together for the first time, and I talk about the system. I talk about how it works. We teach them how to, pull up a fake or a fake opportunity to give an input, and they practice before they do the real thing. We have our secret shoppers incentivized by being paid. I'm a state institution in the state of Georgia, and we had a really hard time figuring out how to incentivize them at first, because a secret shop may take about 5 minutes. Well, getting a student to clock in for 5 minutes of time isn't going to interest anyone. So we had to work with our HR and say that they basically got for each secret shop a set amount of time added to their time card, even though it didn't take that long. In addition, some of our shops require a purchase. So if we're shopping our Chick-fil-A on campus, we need them to actually purchase a chicken sandwich and eat it and tell us how it is. We couldn't, again, state of Georgia rules, we couldn't give them money in advance, and we also couldn't reimburse them on the other end. So we agreed that the amount of money that they're incentivized per shop includes whatever it might cost for them to be reimbursed for that purchase. So for each shop, a shopper receives $20, which is 2 hours at $10 a time. And that is supposed to cover their time and any expenses that they have as a part of that shop.
Thank you, Cindy. So you really want to also make sure that you're engaging and you're coaching your staff. Staff, when they first hear about mystery shopping, they feel like that you have hired people to sneak around and catch them doing things incorrectly and report on that. So you want to make sure that the staff knows that that's not the goal, and you make sure that's not the goal. And develop buy-in with the staff. You can have the staff involved in helping develop the questions or the items that they would like to know more about in their venue on and to get student information on that, to see what your staff is interested in. You want to make sure that you're focused on the goal that this coming fall, it's really about student safety, not just their actual safety, but their feeling of safety as well, and their satisfaction. It's not on disciplining staff. Quite the opposite. You're going to use this to support your staff, figure out where your holes are, and then help support them through that and maybe change processes as you need to. You would incentivize by improvement targets. So not necessarily that if we can actually, you can score your secret shopping. So if your team makes 90% and another team makes 80%, you want to actually reward for their improvement from those levels, not from if they just did amazing from the beginning. Of course, you want to reward that as well. So also try not to create a culture of penalizing employees. I mean, I guess if something egregious is discovered in a mystery shop, that it would make sense to discipline staff, but in general, you won't find those types of things. And so you want to make sure that, again, you're just using this to build your staff and your operations. And then you want to discourage your staff from trying to spot the mystery shopper and make sure that your mystery shopper, and this has to do some with your questions as well. If you have 40 or 50 questions, and some of those are in really esoteric things, you have a mystery shopper going to every nook and cranny and corner of your venue, it's going to be obvious that that's a mystery shopper. And then your staff is going to might have a tendency to try to spot them, and then they can automatically invalidate or disqualify those results mentally when they spot that. So you want to make sure that you guard against that. And I'll pass over to Cindy on how she engages her staff.
Well, like I mentioned before, getting them involved in the process as opposed to dropping this process on them and saying this is how it is going to absolutely be key in getting manager and regular staff buy-in. I've found it very interesting. We've been doing this for several years now, and they do make a difference. After each shop, a manager receives a report on how that shop went. We do score ours, an actual number score. And it's great to see them take pride or be very upset when there's a shop that went poorly for whatever reason. Usually if it's below an 80%, I get a phone call going, hey, what happened? Can you help us with this? which is exactly what I want. I don't want a score to get into the 50s or 60s or below before we decide to do anything about a problem. So this really helps us avoid major incidents by keeping an eye on the baseline and being able to address matters as they come up, whether it be an employee at a cash register with a poor attitude or bad information or whatever. And yes, the score chasing is real. They definitely want those higher numbers, and we don't provide a lot of incentives, with the exception of maybe attaboys. Whenever we have good shops, we read those out loud in staff meetings, and it really gives a pat on the back to those employees who are doing well, and they want that more.
It's a great point, Cindy. That's actually how we did it at Illinois as well, with attaboys, which is very meaningful to the staff. So, and Cindy, can you tell us which areas of auxiliary you mystery shop?
Certainly, we do it in all areas. That includes dining in our residence halls, or resident dining, pardon me, retail dining, bookstore, technology store, our service desks like the Bobcat card, our one card, mail services, and housing. And we also use this system to help us with our one card vendors off campus. We have contracts with vendors off campus to accept our cat cash as payment. And we have a contractual obligation to make sure that that is going well and is working. So once a semester, we shop all of our areas or all of our businesses that accept cat cash, make sure that the service is doing well and that the staff knows how to process payment and that that payment is processing correctly.
Thank you. So for your data analysis, you would like for your mystery shopping to have an analysis side to it. And ideally, your shops are coming in real time so that you can, when I was at Illinois, when we had a mystery shop result come in, like Cindy said, in terms of managers calling her and saying what happened, I experienced the same, and they would, I would get those responses within 10 minutes of a shop results coming in. And then they would call, they would actually have fixed the problem and then called me and said, and talked about it. And then you want to consider maybe how many surveys you need to reach significance if you're doing some very serious analysis on it. However, I find that, you don't need to get that statistical with it. Cindy, how many surveys do you do for each week or semester?
We probably do, over the course of all of auxiliary units, about 10 shops per week. So for example, and we do more shops in our retail food and our resident dining area than we do, say, at the Bobcat card office, because students are interacting with that area more than the other. So I would say each unit gets between 10 and 12 shops per semester.
Great, thanks. And like I mentioned before, benchmarking, you might have some questions that that are tailored to make sure that you're improving on certain benchmarks that you're following. So I found this interesting, some great advice from Mystery Shoppers Professionals Association for mystery shopping during coronavirus. Of course, you want to be following your local ordinances. That's a given. I know all of you are already doing that. And you would consider using just your existing customers. So there are times that you might want to recruit off-campus students. I know that when I was at University of Illinois, some of my dietetics interns had been involved in different sororities and fraternities and wanted to recruit them in, but because they weren't likely to be future customers for us, we would only pull in some of those students off campus. But anyways, for during COVID, you don't want to be you want to keep everything as normal as possible, and not necessarily be introducing additional strain on your units. You want to allow your customers to the option to abort the visit, so that and still be paid for it, because they may be afraid that once they've started a shop that they absolutely have to finish it, for either the money or they might be worried that they won't get to do a shop in the future if they don't finish. But you need to allow the option, because if they view an employee not wearing a mask, or maybe the traffic is much heavier than they were expecting, if their personal safety, if they feel that they're not safe, you need to allow them an exit from that. And you also want to consider, when you schedule those shops, if you have students go during peak times. When I was at Illinois, we did shop during both. We varied the time of when we did the shops. And there may be some ethics issues with having shoppers during COVID go for peak times. And then you want to consider some different shopper agreements and protections. So again, like I said, they need to be informed that they can abort the mission if they feel in danger. You may want to consider a statement up front that highlights that susceptible individuals susceptible to COVID for other health reasons, that they may consider the risk in taking a position like this. And you also want, when you have those shoppers scheduled for a shop, that if they feel sick, you need to give them a strategy of who they're going to call, and that they do not complete their shop if they have symptoms. And then you may consider limiting your shoppers to just one location. Students do go all over campus typically to partake in the different amenities and auxiliary, but during COVID, you may want to not be one of the drivers in sending a student to multiple locations on campus. So that's something to consider. Cindy, do you have any additions? I think, I'm not sure if you want to share what your plans are for secret shopping in the fall.
Well, we've had some conversations. It was even brought up, do we need to suspend the program? And right now, of course, as things stand right now, which is kind of the caveat for all things for the future, but we are planning to continue on with the secret shopper program, because we know that COVID is requiring us to make very quick and nimble changes to our operating procedures, and those changes affect our customers. And we want to make sure that even though we've had to change the way lines work, and there may be a longer line, or we've had to change operating hours or the way that we deliver our services, we are still meeting our customers' needs. So this data will help us manage that question and give us information to help us know whether we're hitting the target or not. And thankfully, the secret shoppers are very quick and nimble themselves, so they can give us, within a week, we'll know very clearly what went wrong or what went right.
Thank you, Cindy. So consider, again, the customer map here with how can you best engage with and get feedback from students during coronavirus. Now, the students' awareness and then engagement, a student's engagement with the product is not really, I mean, I guess it's optional on their end, but that's not what it usually refers to. But I added that optional in there because from a provider of services, you can optionally further engage the students before they've even really connected with your amenities, and that's by getting that word out to them. So maybe marketing to them through text, text conversations with them is a great way to connect with them. And a lot of this is because, students aren't going to be having that face-to-face. So the more that you get the mobile phone involved, the more connected you're going to be with those students. So we're going to open it up for questions now. And please ask as many questions as you would like about any of this. I appreciate everyone's attention and time, and I really appreciate Cindy sharing her valuable expertise with us as well. And Johan is also on the line for questions as well.
Yes, as Cindy said, feel free if you haven't already asked a question to pop that right into the Q&A box. I did see we had a few already, so we can jump on into what's been asked. I think the first one maybe is more directed towards Cindy. If you used social media, does that mean that the student workers knew that this program was happening? And do you feel that the data may have been more realistic if you were more secretive in recruiting?
Well, yes, that is correct, that we do publish this this program that we use widely on social media, and we let our staff know as well that we utilize secret shoppers to help us keep a finger on the pulse of how students are feeling about our services. We do that intentionally because we want the staff to know that any shopper that could come in might be that special secret shopper. So you should treat them all as though they are. When we really recruit once a semester at the beginning, and then after that, we don't really publicize it anymore. But the staff who are in our different operations are definitely aware we use secret shoppers.
Awesome, thank you, Cindy. And I think, Erica, you sort of touched on the next question as it relates to COVID-19, but any kind of elaboration that you'd like to make on the question of, do you plan to use this program, or I suppose in your case, would you plan or recommend to use this program to address failure to social distance, wear masks, etc., or other COVID-19 related safety protocols in food or retail?
That's a great question. I would say for mystery shopping, you definitely want to have, for this coming fall, at least one question that is devoted to safety. And you probably, I mean, you could consider reminding your shoppers up front of what the policies are for staff to keep that safety in that venue, so that they are keeping an eye out for that. Again, I would consider to social distancing, the busier a unit is, the more trouble you will have with that social distancing. So again, I would consider the ethics of not sending a shopper in during those peak times. But I think that asking questions specific to safety and your COVID procedures is crucial. Cindy, do you have any additions to that?
No, I mean, I agree with you that when you're saying that you have some questions you need to ask about, should we be sending shoppers in and increasing traffic in an already busy area during this time? One thing I do recruit my shoppers with this in mind, and I do our training with them. With secret shopping should be a normal part of your day. I don't want you to go into our technology store and try to stump them with crazy questions that are super hard about, input coax cables or whatever. I want you to go in there and say, hey, I need a cell phone case. Can you help me out? So keeping that shopping experience as close to normal as possible from your everyday student is what we're looking for.
That's awesome. Thank you, Cindy. I will pause for one more moment and see if we have any other questions coming in. And while folks are writing, I'm going to pose a question myself. This might be a little out there, but I think as we continue to discuss what housing looks like on campus for the fall and how we'll really require a lot of our students to be following those procedures, mystery shopping makes sense for retail and food services. I wonder if there's any cross-relational practice that can be done within public housing for students in sort of the same way to report to housing officers about mask use, distancing, how public restrooms are being handled. Maybe not a question for Cindy, but more of just a spark of conversation, if that seems even possibly realistic.
I think it is realistic. I think you're going to have to be very careful about how you format your questions and during what circumstances are you expecting your students to respond. When it comes to secret shopping or retail location, there's a very formulatic method to it. You walk into the store, you interact with the staff, you purchase something, you consume that or experience that something, and you move on with your life. Whereas living in a residence hall with staff and experiencing just everyday restrooms and laundry rooms and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be a little bit more vague as to a start and end time. So your questions and how you're sending students to that situation for them to evaluate would have to be a little bit different. But I think there is some value.
Very fair. I know housing, like most things on campus, is a big question mark in general. And anything we can do to make things safer and better for our students is of the utmost importance.
One of the things I'd like to do in the future with our shop and tell and mystery shopper is that I would like to help you use it to evaluate housing programs and events, and have students go to various programs and events that are conducted by our residence hall staff and give us a student perspective on how those are going. You know, was that mocktails program really valuable, and did they really get something out of it? Did whatever else our hall staff is doing to help make those connections with our students, we don't have a very good way of determining if those are effective or not. And I think that this might be a piece of that puzzle.
I think that's a terrific idea and a really exciting way to use this procedure. Erica, Johan, any follow up to that on if something like that would fall in a similar line to the service Touchwork offers?
Johan, go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Well, hi. Thanks everybody for your time today. I do appreciate it as well. Yeah, I think, on our back-end platform, we can really execute multiple feedback programs. So it ranges from that quick day-to-day feedback to the more in-depth feedback, whether it's through a mystery shopping process or whether it's through a staff member going out and doing an inspection. The ability to capture data on a mobile device in multiple ways, and then making that data available in real time and for further analysis is really possible technically. It's really the use case of how do you want to collect the data, what do you want, and then what are you going to do with it. So in principle, it's a matter of really just deciding what is really important for you, and then configuring the process around that to make sure you're collecting the information you want in order to act on it and get value from that.
Awesome. Thank you, Johan. And thank you, Cindy, for humoring my little bit left field out there question that I definitely didn't prep you on before this session.
Oh, great question.
So I'm not seeing any other questions from the audience. You may have been listening in rapt attention, so I will wait just another moment to see if folks have anything top of mind. I am sure if you think of a question later today, maybe over the weekend, any one of our panelists would be happy to follow up with you after the fact. So if you are interested in connecting with them, do let me know, or you can look them up on the NACIS Marketplace, as all of them are on their NACIS profiles.
The one thing I think I probably would like to maybe underline from something that Erica said is that mystery shopping or secret shopping is one part of our feedback loop. We take these results and look at them independently, and we take these results and look at them in the context of what we're hearing on social media, what we're seeing in our semesterly or annual surveys as well, comparing them from year to year. So this gives us a really important piece of that feedback that we need to look at as an entire group.
Very well said, Cindy. Well, folks, without seeing any other questions, I am very happy to give 15 minutes or so back in everyone's day. I know time is a precious resource nowadays. Huge huge thank you to Erica, Johan, and Cindy for sharing this information with us today. And if you did join us late and weren't able to hear the entire presentation, the recording will be made available on the NACIS website in the next few business days. All registered attendees will get an email from me once it's ready, so you don't have to check in every day. We certainly hope to see you at future webinars and roundtables at upcoming weeks. And as always, we have our anonymous feedback survey on screen if you'd like to just take one click to let us know how you felt things went today. Thank you all so much for your participation and those really great questions. If we have any CASP in the audience, please do remember to upload credit for this activity. And on behalf of everyone at NACIS, I hope that all of you have a terrific rest of day.